Hi, welcome to Building a Community of Fans. I'm so excited to see all of you here. My name is Kacey Ezell. I am a hybrid author. I publish traditionally with Bain and with Blackstone Press, and as well as independently with independent publisher Chris Kennedy Publishing. And I have many ambitions of starting some pen names and doing some self-publishing as well. So I'm very interested in this topic of building a community of fans. Let me set some expectations right out front. I'm not a guru, okay? I don't know everything about this. Most importantly, I don't know how you're going to build your community of fans because that's up to you. What this is intended to be is a conversation. So I'm going to talk about how the work that I've done and the things that I've learned in my study of this topic over the last year and a half, 2 years, and share my results with you. And I would really, really love it if you guys would share your results with me, because I guarantee there are some of you in this audience, some of whom I've already talked to, who have larger and more engaged fan bases than I do at this moment right now. So please share your wisdom with us, okay? Everybody agree to those terms? Yeah. Awesome. Okay, great. Let me remember how a computer works. So, what does a community of fans look like? Can you guys see that picture? It's a little weird, right? Is anyone familiar with Midjourney? Yes. So that's a Midjourney image. Midjourney, if you're not familiar, is an art generation AI that I have running on my Discord server. And I literally typed in the prompt to generate a picture of community of fans. And that's what Midjourney came up with. Right, I kind of thought I might have some like pictures of, you know, like Rotary fans or pretty painted fans, but no, I just have like headless creepy people. So that's cool. The truth is, I can't really tell you what a community of fans looks like. I certainly can't tell you what your community of fans looks like. Like I said, Midjourney has some interesting ideas, but that's something that you kind of have to figure out and learn for yourself as you go on through your author career.
Take your spot.
So here's the plan about what we're going to talk about today. I got super cute and reduced it down to one word titles, but we're going to discuss introduction to your fans, connection with your fans, interaction with your fans, and finally the total goal of identification. And I'll explain what I mean when we get there. So, who is going to resonate with your story? Think about that for a second while I do another kind of introduction and tell you a little bit more about me, right? So like I said, my name is Kacey Ezell. I'm a hybrid author. I've published 15 novels that I've written or co-written, and I don't know how many short stories in anthologies, a lot. 3 of those anthologies I've edited, and I'm working on a 4th right now. I've been studying this topic for the last right around 2 years. As I work towards building my own community. So during the pandemic, I realized that humans need connection, and I'm gonna repeat that over and over again throughout this presentation. And I realized that one of the sources of connection for me was the author groups and the reader groups that I was a part of. And I realized that as a professional author myself, if I could build that kind of fan base for myself, that would be an incredible asset, because I'll be completely honest with you, I really like money, right? So if I can build a community of people who will buy anything with my name on it, that will result in money for me and my family. I've drawn inspiration. So some of the fan groups that I've looked at that I've drawn inspiration from are those that belong to people like Larry Correia and David Weber, who are sci-fi and fantasy authors that I know and have worked with. Lucy Score. Anybody know her name? She's an indie romance author. Phenomenal writer, phenomenal community. Claire Kingsley, same thing. I actually found Claire's work through Lucy, which I think there's a lot of that back and forth, which is super cool about the indie community that happens. Sarah Cannon, anyone know that name? Yes. She's a phenomenal writer, phenomenal community, really pretty planner stuff too. Mark Wandry, anybody know that name? Mark Wandry is a sci-fi author who created a shared world universe that I've been privileged to write in, and that universe now has its own like fan club with people who like make uniforms and show up at conventions and cosplay, which is really great. So all of these people like I said, have built these thriving communities that are full of rabid fans who will buy anything with the author's name on it. And like I said, I kind of want a piece of that action. So I'm not necessarily an expert, but I am a student. And like I said, this is to be a conversation between us, okay? So I would love to learn from all of you. And so anytime you have something to say, something to add, please feel free to throw your hand up, interrupt me, and I will include it as part of the conversation. Sound good? Okay. So here's my audience, as visualized by Midjourney. I have a bunch of these through here. I thought it was cute. My audience lives mostly in the United States. They are mostly male. However, because I write a lot of military-focused fiction, because I'm a military veteran myself, and write what you know, right? I get a lot of fans. Of my veteran fans, it's pretty evenly split, male and female. Most of my fans are over 30. They're science fiction fantasy fans, which makes sense because that's what I've got published right now. They enjoy emotional gut punch moments. You guys know what I mean when I say that? Emotional gut punch, okay. And I have a lot of cat lovers. I know that because I wrote one of the sci-fi trilogies that I co-wrote with a friend of mine. Features a race of like cat-like aliens that are the galaxy's perfect assassins, and they're super popular. So that's who my audience is, okay? How do I know this? Well, I pay attention. I know a lot of it through the social media interactions that I've had with people reaching out to me, commenting on my posts. I know a lot of it through like technical analytics that I've run reports on who's seeing my posts, who's commenting, who's opening my emails that I send out. Some of them I know a little bit more about them because they've responded to my newsletter emails when they get them, which I thought it was awesome in the high-powered author panel this morning when the one lady, and I'm terrible with names and I've forgotten them because I suck, but she was talking about how she solicits responses from her readers. I was like, oh man, it's a really good idea. I need to do more of that because if they respond to me, then I can respond to them, then they know that I care about them, and it just snowballs into this type of relationship that we're going to talk about here in a minute. For me, the big one though, and that's the reason I put it in bold and caps, is in-person meetings. I go to a lot of conventions. I enjoy them. I do book signings. I enjoy them. I'm an extrovert. I like talking to people. So that's what works for me. And through those in-person events, I've gotten to know quite a few people who've loved my books and who've enjoyed them. Again, that's me, right? So who is your audience? Well, in order to answer that question, you got to kind of think about three things. First of all, who did you write the story for? For whom did you write the story? I suppose I should be grammatically correct because you're all going to judge me if I'm not. For whom did you write the story, right? With whom will your story resonate? I wrote a story called Bayonets in a male sci-fi anthology that was essentially like a science fiction take on the Battle of Little Round Top at Gettysburg. And I thought that it would resonate with the sci-fi fans, and it did. Well, one fan in particular wrote back to me and told me the story of his combat experience in the Korean War. And it was gut-wrenching. And I was not expecting to get that kind of response from it. But I'm very privileged and honored that he did share that with me. And that struck me as something really important too, because now, again, we've got that interaction, that connection, right? Who do you want to read your work, right? I talked about having ambitions to do a couple of pen names for a couple of different genres. The truth is, I really want a piece of that romance market because, again, see previous comment regarding liking money, right? That romance market, romance fans are not the same as my sci-fi fans, not at all. So I need to think about that when I'm looking to build a community for that romance pen name. That is, I'm not going to be able to use my sci-fi community as a jumping off point necessarily. Does that make sense? Okay. So what you want to do is you want to be able to describe your audience both demographically and anecdotally, right? This allows you to create what bloggers call an avatar. Anybody familiar with the term avatar in this sense? Yeah? Someone want to share what it means?
A graphic that represents you.
Okay, so you said it's a graphic that represents you. In the back, you have something to add?
No, the demographic is your ideal audience, your ideal person, like if you're talking to a Jenny who shops at Target or whatever, like you've got their psychographics and their demographics and their social economic graphics pinned down into the mainstream one person.
Sure, yeah. Basically, it's you take all this data and you condense it into creating an imaginary friend that is like your archetypical audience member. Does that make sense? So my guy's name's Bill, right? This is my avatar. Bill's 55 years old. He's a U.S. Army veteran. He loves science fiction and military science fiction. His favorite authors are Robert Heinlein, David Weber, Larry Correia, and John Ringo. And that's what Midjourney thinks he looks like. It's not bad, right? Kind of a grizzled guy reading a book, dreaming about the moon. What's that? Well, that's his imaginary. It's his imagination window. I mean, you're a writer. Yeah, could be a really tall house. So that's the demographic details. Here's Bill's anecdotal description that I came up with. Bill enlisted in the U.S. Army right out of high school and served for 21 years. He's been married twice and divorced once. He's got 3 grown kids. He works full-time at his second career. He got his degree while in the Army. Am I cutting out? He reads really quickly, and he enjoys stories that get the details, particularly the military details, and the emotions right. Now, to be clear, Bill is imaginary. I made this shit up. Why bother? Ma'am, yeah.
Because then it gives you someone to write to, like you can write for Bill.
Exactly. It gives me someone to write to. And more importantly, it gives me someone to market to, right? So if I know that Bill's favorite authors are Larry Correia and John Ringo, maybe I'm going to target fans of Larry Correia and John Ringo in my ads, right? Maybe I'm going to go to those reader groups and hang around and see what those people are talking about, and not necessarily plug my books in those groups, but carry some of those same ideas over into my reader groups to attract some of those same people. Does that make sense? Also, when I'm sending out my newsletters, I'm not going to send, they're not going to be pink, guys, right? I love pink. Not as much as blue, but I love pink. But I'm not going to use girly, flowery. And I know that I'm using gendered language, and I don't do that in order to be like controversial or anything. But you want to make sure that you are, again, addressing this individual that doesn't really exist, but represents a lot of people who do. Does that make sense? Did you have something to add, sir?
Well, I was just going to say, it also helps guide what you do for covers and all the different images that you use in your ads. If you know that Bill is a man, men tend to like certain things, and women tend, or I guess people who identify as female tend to like other things.
Sure.
In ads.
It allows you to apply generalization in your favor. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other thoughts? Anything to add? Cool. So we're going to do a quick little exercise. It is your turn, right? Take a minute. If you've got a notebook, write it down. If not, just think about it. But tell us about your audience. For whom do you write your stories? And what is that person like? And if anyone would feel comfortable sharing, I would love to have you do that. We do have a microphone in the middle, so if you can make your way to it and use it, great. If not, just project. If you have a name, great. If you don't have a name, no big deal. But I want to know who you're writing for. Yes, ma'am.
So who I'm writing for, this isn't on, is it?
It is.
Who I'm writing for is basically everyone, but you can't target to everyone. And
Exactly.
what I've discovered in the last 3 or 4 months, I've had finally successful Facebook ads, an actual profit instead of a loss. And my Facebook author page grew from about 125 followers. It's about 400, or it already did while I was in transit. Most of my Facebook followers are middle-aged women who love cats.
Weird.
Because my series is the Cat Mage Chronicles, and it features cats with human intelligence and magical powers working with teenagers.
Right.
And I do get moms with their kids, and I was just realizing something. So I was a blogger for many years before I went back to fiction. Well, you could say some blogging is fiction, but okay. And then I've been trying to connect in a newsletter fashion or in this kind of fashion. It's just like blogging. I built up a considerable audience of followers as a blogger, and I would talk back and forth to
Yes.
them. And that also, prior to that, in college, I wrote a humor column where I think the most common thing that people told me about that is that I write what they were thinking, because I was very critical of, the administration in
Sure.
a funny way.
Sure. So here's the common thread that I'm hearing in everything that you're saying. And that is that whether you were blogging or utilizing your newsletter or writing student articles, if I interpreted that correctly, you were providing a means for people, for your reader, to connect with you. And I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's the very next thing that we're going to talk about, is how do you connect with this person, this imaginary person that you've created that represents lots of real people.
Yeah, that's the step that I need to do next.
I got you, boo. Okay. Anyone else want to share? Ma'am, right here, and then we'll come up here.
Okay, I am flailing at this really bad, so it's
Okay.
hard for me to get up here and say this.
Let's do it together.
Okay, that was hoping. So I'm Al Davidson. I write action cyberpunk. Think
Okay.
John Wick, Blade Runner.
Uh-huh.
My audience appears to be all men, 83% over 50.
Okay.
As you can see, I'm not a guy.
Sure.
And so I'm having a really difficult time connecting to them because they all think I'm a dude. And I don't know what to say. I can't. Now, the only thing I really actually have a lot in common with them. I play MMOs, I'm a big gamer, I'm a big action movie junkie, I collect comic books. But how do I connect with that? I don't know what to do.
So,
In fact, I've even put off my newsletter, and I have 3 books coming out, and I still don't have a newsletter.
Why do you have to say anything about it?
Well, see, because I feel that if I start, I don't want to lie to them. I don't want to say, I don't want to say I'm a he when I'm not.
Sure.
So I want to
let
be
me-
genuine.
yeah, so here's the thing. Number one, that's a choice that you could make. You don't have to reveal who you are you don't have to reveal that piece of your data if you don't want to. And again, I'm going to talk more about boundaries a little bit later in the presentation. But if you decide that that's something that you do want to share, let me share with you a little bit of reassurance. It's been my experience so I retired from the Air Force after 23 years as an aviator. And so I spent my entire adult life in an entirely male-dominated field. Dudes like badass chicks. They do. They like badass chicks who are into the same things that they're into.
Okay.
They like tomboys, right?
Okay. Well,
So if you do be like, hey guys, joke's on you, I'm a woman, woo! And they're like, what? And you're like, yeah, and I'm awesome at MMOs, and this is what we can connect on. The point is, you said it yourself, you've got a lot that you can connect with them on. Pick something that you are comfortable sharing, that you're comfortable talking about, that you're comfortable connecting over,
okay.
and focus on that.
Action movies?
Yeah, heck yeah.
John Wick?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All that kind of stuff.
Okay.
All that kind of stuff. Does that help?
That helps a lot,
Awesome.
actually. I feel
Great.
a little bit better about being genuine about myself
Yeah.
and not hiding.
Yeah,
All right, thanks.
sure. What is it? Sure. Anyone else? Oh, we were going to come up here. Yes, ma'am.
So, wow, you're an engineer.
Can I just secretly confess that I'm so excited the room's so full?
I'm not, but
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry to make it for you.
I think it's fabulous. Okay, all right. Megan is in her late 40s and has a family and a career. She has a lot on her mind. She tries very hard to juggle it all,
Yeah.
but she looks forward to escaping where she can be in gorgeous ballrooms with gorgeous dukes and everything always works out.
I think Megan might be me. Yeah, I'm going to need your card. No, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. It's very detailed. And there are seeds in there. Just like when you were writing your story, you sprinkle seeds throughout that the reader can pull at. when you write the story of your avatar, you can kind of pull on those seeds to find things over which to connect with them, like John Wick movies, or gorgeous ball gowns, or handsome dukes, if you happen to know any of those. What's that? Pass them along, that's right. Send me deets, sis. All right. So let's talk about that connection piece. I put a quote up here that I pulled from one of the online reader forums that I'm a member of. I'm not going to identify which one. And I didn't attribute it. I just attributed it to Anonymous because this is a very vulnerable quote, right? And I, to be honest, didn't have permission to say that this person said this. But this was what one of the fans said. That's why I hang out in so many online groups, so I don't feel so alone. Does that resonate with anybody? Yeah. Does it resonate with everybody? Especially after the last 2 years, right? It sucks. Being and feeling isolated sucks. And for so many of us, these groups that we form on the internet have really been the saving grace. I know they were for me. When in 2020, not only did the whole world shut down, but the whole world shut down and I was in Japan. So communicating with people was very difficult because of the 12-hour time difference. And yet, I had to do it because it saved my sanity, right? So like I said before, humans crave connection. I've got a couple of little factoids here that I pulled from, I'm going to say it wrong, the Canadian Mental Health Association, I think, website. This was an article that they published in 2019. It basically said, this is why it's important to connect with other humans, even if you're an introvert, right? The difference comes in how you do it, is kind of what I've been able to gather. Again, I'm not a doctor. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn last night. I stayed upstairs. Yeah, it can lower incidences of anxiety and depression, help us regulate our emotions, has some immune ramifications. It just makes us feel better as people to connect with other people. And we want to tap into that. Who's heard the term parasocial relationship before? A couple of you? Somebody want to share what it means? Yes?
It's basically where you as kind of the author or celebrity, people feel a close connection with you even though you don't actually know them and they don't actually.
Yeah, exactly. If you didn't hear what she said, it's when people feel like they know you as the author or celebrity, even though you don't actually know each other in person. I just want you guys to know how cool I am. Like, I came up with this little tagline for it: close connections even at a distance. You're welcome. I'm a writer, no big deal. Parasocial relationships. So this came from dictionary.com. Basically says the same thing, right? It's not a pseudo relationship because it's a real relationship with real ramifications. But the key is you don't actually really know one another. Now I'm gonna throw. I should have, but I just thought of it right now. Sorry. I should have asterisked that first bullet because there's a little bit of a caveat in our situation. I would argue that we just spent a whole lot of time talking about getting to know them, even if we're not individually knowing them. Does that make sense? So there is a little bit of I know you, you know me, and certainly these parasympathetic, that's something totally different. These parasocial relationships can grow into one-on-one friendships, and that happens all the time in online communities and stuff, right? Anybody experienced that before? Yeah. So it taps into, building one of these taps into the need for connection, which is why it is then the goal within comfortable bounds. Let me say that again, within comfortable bounds, okay? So that's kind of what we were talking about here a minute ago. You get to decide how much of your life you share with your audience. It is to your comfort level. I'll give you an example. My husband and I, when I started doing this stuff, we sat down and kind of talked about it. And I'm a pretty open person. I'm an extreme extrovert. I draw a lot of energy from interacting with other people. And I will tell you my life story, complete with all the details. You spicy romance authors, like, yeah, I'll share all that stuff with you. Ask me about Thursdays sometime. However, my husband and I, we got together and we decided that we were not comfortable sharing details about our kids, right? I have 2 children. I don't I don't hide the fact that I have children, but I don't talk a lot about them in my newsletter. If I do talk about them, it's along the lines of, my oldest daughter graduated from high school this week. Very excited about it. That's it, end of story. I don't share pictures of them online. I don't feature them in my videos. It's pretty, I keep it pretty close hold for their privacy, but because that's where our comfort level lies. Does that make sense? You gotta make those decisions for yourself as well. I'm gonna start speeding up because I'm having too much fun talking to you guys. Okay, so how do you do this? Well, again, there's no one true way to form a parasocial relationship with your avatar. You have to decide your boundaries first of all. But the key is, you gotta give your avatar something to connect with. So like, it was Al, right? Al was talking about John Wick movies and action video games. If she talks about those in her newsletter, she knows that her audience is gonna be interested in that content. And that gives them something to connect with. And allows her audience to see her as, hey, this is this badass tomboy gamer chick who writes awesome stories that I love. She's amazing. I'm gonna tell my buddies about her. That is the golden moment right there. Does that make sense? I recommend, and again, not an expert, I just pay attention to this stuff. I think that at the very least, certainly when you're getting started, okay, side note, who else felt slightly intimidated in the high-powered author panel when they're like, yeah, I send out 34 emails per day. I got a full-time job, 2 kids and a husband, like
15,000 words a day.
15,000 words a day.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot, right? So here's what I recommend for getting started. If you're doing it all yourself, choose 2 or 3 venues, right? Choose 2 or 3 venues to start reaching out and trying to connect with people. I highly recommend that one of them be an email list because that's direct. That's a direct connection between you and your audience. You're able to email them, they're able to email you back, okay? But if you don't like sending emails, figure something else out. That's the beauty of being indie. You can do what you want, right? You just might have to work a little harder. Yes?
Can I just ask one? I can project from the military. Can I just ask one question? I had a newsletter list that my readers were super engaged and replying to my newsletters, but they didn't buy my books.
Yeah.
So then I geared towards more salesy newsletter where I gave them like one personal detail. And so now I have more book sales, but they don't talk to me anymore.
Yeah.
So I like, where's the line?
So that's a really good question. And again, it's going to be different for everyone. I know some people have had success with kind of splitting it out, and like you send two newsletters a month. One of them is, hey, here's my sales info, and the other one's, hey, here's my chatty info. And then that way you still get that, that connection. The way it typically works for me, I get most of my interaction my interaction going out through my email is one way, it's from me to them. But when they come back and talk to me, I do get some replies. A lot of it's through social media though. And that's where a lot of that connection happens for me. So that's why I say pick 2 or 3 venues. So that, sorry, I got something in my eye. So that your
reader group or like what?
yeah, I have a reader group and I have a Discord server. I love Discord because it's live. Yeah, Discord's my favorite. So that's where a lot of this stuff comes from. That's a really good question. Anyone else? Funny story, you only get the link to my Discord if you join my newsletter list. So it's an exclusive community, right? People love exclusive communities as long as they're part of it. Yeah. So that actually is a really good segue because it kind of leads to the 4th point, which is identification. You want to allow your readers to forge an identity as your superfan. These are the people that are going to recognize, or that are going to recommend your work to other people. They're the people who are going to sign up for your Patreon just because they want to support you. They're the people who are going to volunteer to be moderators in your social media reader groups on your Facebook. They're the ones who are going to travel to come see you at in-person events. They are priceless. They are priceless. And you want to take care of them. So how do you do that? Well, you preserve the relationships. Someone who has a great fan group in the audience, tell me what you do to preserve the relationship between you and your fans. Yes?
I quiz them regularly. Like, what do you guys want in the next book?
Oh,
Like I had two options that I was leaning toward with like the next series arc,
Uh-huh.
and I asked them for input. And they love getting to decide these things. They love like getting to, like, they were curious about like my background. But
Right.
like some people wanted the mystery aspect. So it was like, you know, getting their input.
good point, thank you. Yes, ma'am?
I had them help me decide on the cover.
Oh,
And then it split even, so I told them they were useless to me.
okay, all right.
And I didn't lose anybody.
Well, that's awesome. It's awesome that you have that kind of dynamic with your audience, yeah. Yes?
I love having like inside jokes and letting my readers troll me and kind of creating like this idea where they sort of get this, everybody knows we can joke with Nicole about this particular topic.
Right.
And it becomes like an inside joke. And then even when new people come in, they'll message me and be like, what is this about? You know?
Yeah. The Lucy Score that I mentioned is one of my big inspirations. Her reader group has this whole thing about tacos and not taking showers, right? Because she's always joking about how she's not taking a shower because she's, you know, deep in writing and she just wakes up and immediately goes to work on the book. And then when she finishes the book, she celebrates with tacos. So tacos are like a whole thing in this reader group, and it's perfect. It becomes a binding factor for the group. Excellent. Yes.
I save the scenes that I cut from my books, and then I give them to my readers.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so saving cut scenes and giving them kind of as extra content. Yeah, Kevin.
Connection to process, how I'm developing a scene, how I'm developing a character, how I'm developing a plot, that sort of thing.
Yeah, great stuff. Letting them kind of see how the sausage is made. Excellent. All of these things allow your audience to identify as your audience. To the point of giving themselves names, right? Lucy Score's group is called Binge Readers Anonymous, and she addresses us as bras. If you've ever worn a bra, you know that they have an incredibly supportive function, right? These are an incredibly supportive group of people. It works so well, you guys. Larry Correia, his sole series is an urban fantasy series about monster hunters. So what do his fans call themselves? They're hunters. They address each other as hunters. These guys have their own language, right? They hoon at each other. If you know, you know. Okay? I talked before about the Four Horsemen universe. Our fans call themselves mercs. They make uniforms and cosplay. It's phenomenal. You want to treat them as your friends within those boundaries that you set, because they are. They're important to you, and you want to let them know that they're important to you. I highly recommend, this has worked really well for me, personalizing. All of my newsletters go out to, you know, the name variable, right? So that when you get it, if you sign up with, you know, Kacey Ezell, you open my email, it's like, hey, Kacey Ezell, how's your day? You know? I didn't really say how's your day, but whatever. You want to be inviting in your tone, and you don't want to become a constant commercial. Now, that being said, you don't want to not sell your books either. So it is a balance that you got to strike, and you're going to probably kind of have to feel that out on your own to figure out where exactly that's going to stand for your individual fan community.
I found that personalized. The people on my email list that personally know me, one of their comments is just like sitting in the room talking to you, your newsletter.
That's great. So in case you didn't hear what she said that when she personalizes her newsletter, and the people that actually know her in real life, in real space, have said, reading your newsletter is like sitting in a room and talking to you. That's what you want. That's what your fans want. Because again, it's allowing them to connect with you and build that parasocial relationship so that they're invested in you as a writer, and they're going to buy your books so that they get more of you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We did it in time, guys. So, in conclusion, creating an online fan community can really pay dividends, right? Because you're going to take new readers, you're going to turn them into fans, and you're going to allow them to become super fans, all by interacting with them and creating that sense of connection. You want to cherish those parasocial relationships, protect them, and facilitate an identity for your fans, right? You don't have to give them a name, but you can. That's one mechanism for it. But pick something that you share in common with them, or something that you can connect with, and build that identity around that, right? Whether it's hey, we're badass gamer action movie fans, or, you know, we're Duke-loving ballroom dancer ball gown wearers. Sorry, I kind of screwed that up. There is no one true way. Your approach must be individualized, because if it's not individualized, it's not genuine. And if it's not genuine, it's not real connection. Does that make sense? Okay. Share some stories with me. Yes?
I don't have a story, but there's a book that was put out about 15 years ago called Little Monsters, about Lady Gaga doing exactly this.
Yeah!
It's an amazing book on how the fans created their own identity as Little Monsters.
As her Little Monsters.
Yeah, and she would call them Little Monsters. It's a really great book.
I remember that. I remember that phenomenon, yeah. So what she said is the book is called Little Monsters, and it's about Lady Gaga using a lot of these same principles to create to allow her fan community to grow. Maybe I skipped a slide, I don't know. One of the things that I didn't hit as hard as I wanted to, too, is that interaction is key. Not just interaction between you and your fans, but if you can create a venue where they can interact with each other, which is why I love Discord, that's even better, because then that reinforces that identity. We'll go here, right here, and then back around.
That's your previous slide, and if you could go back to
Yeah.
it, I'd love to write that down.
Sure. Thank you for helping me with that. Yeah, encourage interaction, right? Request replies to your email. One of the things that I did love, I loved the whole high-powered author panel, to be clear. It just scared the crap out of me in a couple places. One of the things I really loved was when she said that she will send out questions, get back answers, and then feature reader answers in her next email. That's brilliant. That's brilliant, because it allows the readers to get to know each other as well, right? People run contests. There was a lovely woman I met yesterday, I think her name was Ray, she might be in the room. She was described as the contest queen. That is brilliant, right? If you run contests, people love contests. People love being winners, you know? The prizes don't have to be simply super expensive. It can be an e-copy of your book, right? Run some contests, do giveaways. Go to events. This is what's been working. Sorry about that. This is what's been working for me is in-person events, meeting people, being on panels, letting them connect with me that way. And then some yes.
I don't think I was actually, but.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I just have a question. This is kind of a little bit of an uncomfortable question, but what do you do when you get fans that maybe are taking things a little too far with the interpersonal thing? How do you handle that without alienating them?
That is a very good question. Your mileage may vary. If I get a fan that is taking it too seriously, that is identifying with me too much, I no longer want them as a fan, and I will alienate them. I will say, you are making me uncomfortable, please go away, and I will unsubscribe them, and I will no longer talk to them. That is me. Your mileage may vary. Just like setting your boundaries, that's something that I would recommend if you're in that situation. Please talk to people in your life that you trust, whose opinions you respect. But stalkers do happen, you know. And if it gets to that point, don't hesitate to escalate. Okay, to the extent of going to law enforcement, because better someone think that you're overreacting than something terrible happens. Yeah. Sorry, you were next.
I have a Facebook author page, not a group, so they can only comment on the posts that I make. I mean, should I turn it into a group?
Yes.
Maybe. I would say ask around. I have had better success with my. Actually, I have both. I have a group and a page because you have to have a page to run ads.
Yes.
So
yeah.
So I'm in camp both. But I would say this is a great venue to ask a lot of people that question and kind of gather some data, okay?
Hands up for group.
I have both.
Both.
Both. Hands up for both.
Yes.
No,
Yeah,
both,
okay.
definitely.
I'll do that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So I guess this goes to a lot of the traditionally published books that I've read and communities that I've been a part of. But one of the things that I think's worked really well is adding mystery into the novels that you write, specifically to enable the readers to run off into conspiracy theory land about who killed who or who did what.
Kind of like Easter eggs.
But Easter eggs, but one of the in speaking to a couple of the authors that have done that, not only do you get people that will engage in their own conversations, but they'll start giving you ideas.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's a great point.
Like,
Go ahead.
the example that Who Killed Asmodeus being the one that has been debated in the Wheel of Time for 30 years.
Yeah. Or the whole, I mean, the series sort of solved it, but the whole Game of Thrones, you know, R plus L equals J, yeah, that whole conspiracy. That's a really good point. Yes?
Yeah, I'm a new author, and I got a prequel out, one book in a series, and through BookFunnel, I've got almost 2,000 in my newsletter. And
congrats.
I get only a few responses. I always ask questions. I get a few responses, so maybe I'm at 20, maybe more. And what do you do with that fear of starting a group that nobody's in it? And I'm just afraid that and I've even kind of said, who wants a group, and haven't gotten much. I don't know, I think my people are older, like 50 and older, maybe 60 and older, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not as group oriented.
So go back to the idea of your avatar. Figure out who your audience is and decide if a group on Facebook is going to serve you. If you're writing young adult fiction and your audience members are, I don't know, 18, Facebook isn't for you. You don't want Facebook. You know? So look at who your audience is and decide, are they the ones that are going to use it or not? And if you think that they are, but you're still feeling that anxiety and that fear, believe in yourself. You've got something to offer. You've got something they want. You've got the book. You've got the story. Give it time. Believe in yourself. And start going. And if worse comes to worse, recruit a friend to be a ringer. Be like, hey, come in my group and post something every week or so, just to get the action going.
And how much, I mean, if I'm not getting much reaction, how often are you know, here you are alone, maybe you got 5 people, 3 of them are your cousins.
Yeah. Again, that's gonna depend on you and what works for your life. Yeah.
So do it even if you're not getting much response, just it'll grow like the...
If you think it's gonna serve your career and it's gonna be a way to connect with your audience, then yeah, I'd say go for it. You're a brave person. You have to be. You're a writer. Okay. And you're here. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see who was first, so we're just gonna go you, and then I think that's it. Oh, yeah, we have 2 minutes left. Quick talk.
Is there a way to develop an avatar when you don't have an audience at all?
Who do you want to be your audience? Figure that out. Does that make sense? What are you writing?
Fantasy.
Fantasy? What?
Fantasy.
What kind of fantasy?
Kind of like Dune a little bit.
So epic? Epic space. So, okay. Look at other authors who have been very successful writing the kind of work that you are writing similar work. Look at who their audience is and go from there. Over here. Yes?
I just wanted to toss a suggestion toward the starting a Facebook group thing.
Yeah.
So let's say you have your email list. That's it's direct interaction, but it's not like live interaction like a Discord or a Facebook group might be.
Right.
Like a good place to start is build a newsletter list first to like a big number that you're happy with, 500, 1,000.
Sure.
And then just announce to those people, I have a Facebook group. And even if 5% convert over, you still have pretty good numbers in your group, right?
Yeah. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. And you guys, I am not an expert when it comes to any individual social media or newsletter building. There are really, really smart people at this convention. You should totally go to their panels and learn that thing. Yeah. There was one more over here and then we're done. Or we're at time? I'm sorry, we're at time. I love you all. Thank